Did you know that fear of public speaking is one of the most common fears amongst all people? I personally hate it, which I know is ironic because I am a teacher. With students, it's a bit different, but put me in front of a group of other teachers or 20 people listening to what I have to say. Suddenly, my heart starts beating really fast, my hands get really sweaty, my voice starts to break, my face flushes red, and I suddenly cannot remember anything that I had prepared previously before my speech, before my presentation. Now, I can't even imagine this situation in a second or third or fourth language. It must be so much more difficult to convince yourself that you are confident if it's not your first language. If this sounds like you or you can relate to this feeling, keep watching because today I will be focusing on how you can improve your public speaking, improve your presentation skills, and give you some tips and tricks on how to create an engaged and captivated audience. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a business English teacher and I work with intermediate to advanced level students, so I recommend subscribing if that is where you are at in your English language learning journey. Now, the first thing, and possibly the most important thing throughout this video that I want to focus on is not about changing yourself or your identity, but creating listener-friendly communication. A lot of non-native speakers are very self-conscious about their accent or their vocabulary level, or even the fact that they are non-native. And this is the thing that they focus on. They focus on trying to change themselves. Like, I don't want to sound like a non-native speaker. I want to sound like a native speaker. And they believe that this is what is holding them back. But actually, this isn't true at all. Some of the best and most influential speakers are non-native speakers, but they just know how to present well and know how to captivate and engage an audience. As you will learn throughout this video, it is less about what you say and more about how you say it, and therefore how you can create listener-friendly communication. Your accent is part of your identity. Modifying your accent does not make you more intelligent, less intelligent, more knowledgeable. However, it does sometimes affect your ability to be understood. Instead of focusing on changing your accent or removing your accent, focus on making sure that everything you are saying, every word you are saying, is understood correctly. If you find that people struggle to understand you, it can be multiple reasons. It could be you speak too fast. Maybe you are linking words together that do not need to be linked together. Perhaps you are stressing the wrong parts of a sentence. This is definitely something that a teacher can help you with, but also if you recognize it in yourself and you follow some of the tips I'm going to give you in this video, you can make your speeches and your presentations more fluid, more understandable, and easier for the listener to follow along with. I also just want to emphasize here that your ability to speak more than one language means you have access to different perspectives, different mindsets, different cultures, other ways of thinking. And these differences are a superpower. They are not something holding you back. They are something that puts you above the rest of your colleagues, the rest of the candidates, if you are interviewing. There is nothing to be embarrassed about or ashamed of because English isn't your native language. We cannot control where we are born. You come from a different culture, a different region, a different part of the world. There is no need for you to stress or panic that you are not 100% fluent, but instead work on what you can change and what you can improve. Think about it. If you're working in an office and everyone comes from a different country, that's so many different mindsets and languages and perspectives that you have access to. If you work in an office and everyone is of the same nationality, you're losing out on all of those differences. So I want to introduce something here called accent bias. Now, you may have heard this before. This is the idea that based on someone's accent, They are believed to be more intelligent, more influential, more powerful, or the opposite. Purely based on their accent, they are believed to be less intelligent, less powerful, less influential, have a different education level. But obviously, this is completely incorrect. Even for native speakers, there is no right or wrong way of speaking. Accents are present in every language. A non-native accent does not make you less intelligent or less worthy of speaking in a public space than anyone else. In England, we have an accent bias between the north of the country and the south of the country. Now, of course, England has a very good educational system, so people in the north and people in the south are typically just as intelligent as each other. They get the same education all over the country, for the most part. However, 80% of employers in England admitted to hiring based on accent. And 76% of people from Newcastle, which is a city in the north of England that has a very strong accent, 76% of people from Newcastle admitted to changing their accent in an interview because they believed they would be more hireable. They'd be more successful if they had a more neutral accent. Of course, again, this is wrong. It doesn't matter how someone sounds. They still have the experience, the education, the skills. But there is this accent bias that a very strong accent means you could be less intelligent or less skilled than someone with a more neutral accent. And I'm doing this because neutral is very dependent on the country you come from. Now let's think about this for non-native speakers. Non-native speakers of the English language outweigh native speakers 5-1. So for every one native speaker, there are 5 non-native speakers in the world. That is a huge amount of people in the world speaking English with a non-native accent compared to those speaking with a native accent. It's much more likely you're going to work with someone who is non-native but uses the English language than it is work with someone who is a native of the English language. Now, in order to accept this accent bias and not let it affect your ability to perform or present or speak as confidently as you wish, you need to do a couple of things. The first is accept and acknowledge that is a part of you. You will always have some sort of accent. Your culture, your beliefs, your background, the way you were brought up, that is you. That is part of you. And that is what makes you different and unique to everyone else. The second thing you need to do is then turn this into a positive. For example, if you're presenting a topic that is very common in your culture and not so common in the country you are presenting in, you can use this knowledge, use this background, use this culture as positive. This is knowledge you have that maybe other people in the room do not have. A lot of my students get confused because people will use idioms or phrases that just don't translate in their own language. For example, slam dunk. It was a slam dunk. What does that mean? Or maybe there's a joke being made about American football and you don't understand what that joke is or what they are saying. Instead of feeling like you are the odd one out or you are stupid or you lack ability to understand, turn it around and look at it this way. This group of people knows something that I am not a part of, and I would like to be a part of this. I would like to understand. So you could say something along the lines of, hey, I'm not familiar with that expression. Could you just explain it for me? Or in my culture, we don't have American football. We don't have the phrase slam dunk. Would you mind explaining it to me? Don't feel like you need to apologize for not understanding. Have them explain it to you. You shouldn't be the one that doesn't understand. They should be using phrases that you can understand. They should be aware that not everyone in the room is a native speaker. So be confident. Do not start with the word sorry. Say something along the lines of, could you explain that for me, please? Would you mind explaining that again? I didn't quite catch the meaning. In my culture, we don't use expressions like that. Could you just tell me what it means? On this note, I want to point out it's not necessarily related to public speaking, but it's important all the same. Do not change your name to make it easier for foreigners. You can bring up that it might be different. You can mention that the pronunciation might be difficult, or it might not be a common name in their language. Help them to pronounce it correctly rather than offering them an alternative and therefore being called the wrong name for the rest of your career. Of course, this is a personal thing. Some people don't want to spend the time teaching others how to say their name correctly. Some people are tired of being called the wrong name. Some people do just want an American or English name. And that's fine. That's personal opinion. But if you want your name pronounced correctly, tell people that. Don't be embarrassed. If someone spells my name wrong, I would correct them. If someone says my name wrong, I would correct them. So why can't you? I had a student who gave me his name. He said his name was Tom. He believed I wouldn't be able to pronounce his actual name, so he told me to call him Tom. But when he finally gave me his native name, I pronounced it perfectly because I am an English teacher and I am used to pronouncing things in a different way. If I hadn't asked, what is your actual name? He never would have told me, and we would have spent the rest of our lessons with me calling him the wrong name. This could also save confusion in the future. I know it can be an awkward situation repeating your name 3 or 4 or 5 times, and it keeps being mispronounced. So I'm not telling you to constantly correct someone or waste your time constantly correcting the people in your office. But don't allow the first sentence of your introduction to be, "Hi, my name is Catherine, but you can call me Kat because most people can't pronounce Catherine." That's not very confident. You are instantly telling the person you're speaking to, "My name doesn't matter. Call me whatever is easiest for you. I don't really matter as much. I'm adjusting my identity so you can be more comfortable." Enter the conversation with, "Hi, my name is Catherine." Yes, that's right. Catherine. Catherine. Try again. Catherine. Good job. Yeah, perfect. Catherine. Thank you. However, if they then do not get it right after you've tried to help them pronounce it correctly, then of course you can offer an alternative name and say, "Oh, don't worry. Just call me Kat, it's fine." But you never know. The listener might get it right the first time. The way you talk, your delivery, is more important than the words used. There was a study done where a group of people were told to ask non-native speakers directions and native speakers directions to somewhere. Where is the shop? Where is the bathroom? However, the researchers had told the native speakers to speak unconfidently. I think, I'm not really sure, but I think it's to the left and then to the right, but I'm not sure. They then asked the non-native speakers to give the directions confidently, but the wrong directions. And every single time the group of people followed the wrong directions said by a confident non-native speaker before they followed the directions of an unconfident native speaker. So this shows it wasn't about the accent, it was about the confidence that came across. There have also been multiple studies done on the way we interpret information, the way we listen to information. And what they found is that people who speak more than one language find it easier to listen to a task or listen to communication not in their own language than people who only spoke one language. This is because the people who spoke only one language were only used to hearing things being said and pronounced in a very particular way. But the people that spoke more than 1 or 2 languages are used to things being pronounced in a variety of different ways because they're used to the non-native accent. They're used to hearing different English words said with different tones, stresses, sounds. I will give you my own examples. So before teaching English, I found it very difficult to understand different accents. Whereas now, not only can I guess what my students are going to say, but I can work out which country they are from just based on the way they are pronouncing things. I'm not always 100% correct, but most of the time I can guess the region that they are from just based on how they pronounce something. Now, sometimes you may find yourself needing to substitute certain sounds or letters for other sounds and letters because your language does not have those sounds and letters. For example, Mandarin speakers, they find it difficult to pronounce a word that does not have a vowel on the end of it, like the hard T or the hard D sound at the end of a word in English. Or people from the Philippines that speak Tagalog find it difficult to pronounce the P and the B sound. They will swap them round. And Thai students struggle with the TH sound because it does not exist in their language, in their alphabet. But studies have shown that if you substitute the initial sound of a word for something else, the initial letter, it is very difficult for people to understand what you mean. However, if you substitute the middle sound or the last letter of a word, people can guess what you are trying to say. So for example, if I tell you, today I am having the best day ever, I have pronounced the word best incorrectly. I swapped the middle sound out for a different E sound. But due to the context of the sentence and the first letter of the word being B, you can guess that I am trying to say best. And my sentence still makes sense, even with the incorrect pronunciation. So even if your pronunciation is not 100% correct, really try to get the first sound of the word correct. As I keep saying, the way you present something is more important than what you are actually saying. So don't just write a script. Don't just write down what you want to say. Write a script with notes on how you are going to present it. Not only will this make you look more confident, but you will feel more confident when presenting because you don't have to think, oh, I should make a pause, I should move my hands, I should walk across the room. It's written on your notes. You just follow your notes. This makes you seem calm and in control and makes what you're doing seem more spontaneous and natural and not like something you have rehearsed and practiced again and again and again. Now, you can do this using AI. There are lots of dictation AI tools you can use, but personally, I still believe the old-fashioned way is the best way to really improve your skills. So write a script, read it out loud. Maybe film yourself, maybe do it in front of a mirror, and make notes on your page every time you pause. If the sentence is too long, note that down that you need to pause or put a comma or a full stop. If you struggle to pronounce something, write down an easy pronunciation on your script. Write down everything you want to repeat when presenting. If you feel that a certain section is really boring or too long, note that down. So when you go back over your script, you can make those changes. You can make it more interesting, add a joke, add pauses, break up the text. What is the focus of your presentation? Is there anything shocking in your presentation? Any statistics that really stand out? Now, you can highlight these in a couple of ways and emphasize these. The first is to leave a pause after any sentence or statistic to really emphasize and highlight what you've just said. Give people a chance to stop and think about what you've just said. Another way you can highlight is by stressing certain words. For example, if I say, a rare fact that not many people know is that cows have 4 stomachs. Okay, and where is this going? Whereas if I say, a rare fact that many people don't know is that cows have 4 stomachs. Now, obviously, this is a silly example, but you can really feel the difference. The first one is not exciting, okay? It's just another piece of information. But the second example, you're really emphasizing many people don't know this. And 4, wow, really? Coupled with a pause at the end of that sentence really gets your audience thinking, wow, 4. You can feel the importance of what I've just said. Let me give you a better example, and in this example, I'm also going to be using body language and speed and pauses and intonation, and all of these things I will go through. So don't worry if you don't know what they mean, but just listen to the difference in examples. I was working with a student who was stressed, nervous, angry, not confident with the way she was sounding in meetings. But with a few lessons and some clever techniques, she was able to get into her next presentation feeling calm, confident, and in control. Now let me try it again. I was working with a student who was stressed, nervous, angry, not confident in the way she speaks, the way she sounded in meetings. But with a few lessons and some clever techniques, she was able to go into her presentation feeling calm, confident, and in control. Notice the way I speed up, I use body language, I use more facial expressions to replicate that anger, that nervousness. You can really feel how the student felt. But when the student is calm, I slow down, I emphasize in control. You can feel the emotions rather than just listening to what I'm saying. I was going to make this one video, but I think it's going to be too long and too much information. So I'm going to stop here. And in the next part, the second part, I'm going to teach you how you can improve this, how you can include body language, include stress and intonation, change your voice so that your audience is always listening, always waiting for the next thing you are going to say, and how you can note this in your script so that you remember for every time you do that presentation. Every time you do it, it comes across the same energy. So thank you for watching today. This is just an introduction and hopefully gives you some awareness of maybe some of the things you are worried about when you are giving a speech. And if you can remember some of the things I've said today, you should feel more confident and less nervous or embarrassed about the fact you are a non-native speaker. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.